Welcome to Far East Maritime Training Center's Crowd and Crisis Management for domestic passenger ships. Learning objectives. The trainees shall be able to optimize the use of resources, organize realistic drills, and control response to emergencies. Motivation of passengers and other personnel, as well as stresses and effects of stress. Passenger ships, from cruise liners to ferries, are complex environments where safety, security, and human behavior intersect in unique and often unpredictable ways. With thousands of people confined to a floating structure at sea, managing crowds and responding effectively to crises is not just a regulatory requirement, it's a life-saving necessity. Shipboard emergency plans, instructions, and procedures. Optimization of resources. Planning and training. Effective crowd and crises management begins with thorough planning and training and should not deviate from company standard procedures. Crew members should undergo regular training sessions that covers the following. 1. Vessel's specific emergency procedure. 2. Vessel's crowd and crises control techniques. 3. Communication or PA system. 4. Visual signals or presentation. 5. Realistic training exercise. Best practice for crises management. You will able to know and understand the evacuation drills, role assignment, passenger participation, and debriefings. This training program is necessary prior joining a passenger ship or cruise ship, as well as a mandatory training under STCW Regulation 5/2 and used as a competency assessment. Vessel-specific emergency procedure. All crew upon joining should immediately join the mandatory safety familiarization to familiarize vessel-specific emergency signals on all types of emergency, including ship's layout and assigned muster station, including but not limited to his or her assigned emergency duties. Vessel's crowd and crises control techniques. Study strategies for directing passengers to muster stations and lifeboat stations while maintaining calm and order. Learn how to control unruly passenger should be warned with your authority. Communication or PA system. Be attentive to master's orders and pass on to passenger for their understanding. Rehearse the announcement to sound that you are in control. Be in mind that not all passengers speak nor understand English. Use sign and body language. This technique will help you or find someone else from your colleagues or passenger who can speak their local language. Always attend to their needs. Visual signals or presentation. In noisy environments and for passengers with hearing impaired, and where verbal communication may be ineffective, use hand signal to direct their attention to infrared light transmission or megaphone. Realistic training exercise. Simulate emergency scenarios to prepare everyone for potential challenges. Assign one crew for role play or make an unannounced drill for the crew. Used code signal not to disturb the passenger. Evacuation drills. This is required to have at least one in every voyage. Role assignment. Crew members should have specific duties during drills to ensure efficient execution of evacuation plans and procedures. Passenger participation. Encouraging passenger participation in drills enhances their preparedness for emergencies. Briefings with passengers. Conducting briefings before drills informs passengers about what to expect. Debriefing with crew. Ways to improve any difficulties during the drill should be addressed to the captain for assessment, to revise the procedures if necessary or required more rigid training with the crew. Mandatory training. All personnel providing direct service to passengers must complete STCW compliant crowd and crises management training. Competency assessment. All crew members must demonstrate competency in managing crowds and crises effectively during emergencies. Resources available or internal. Officers and crew. Deck department, engine department, and hotel department. Frontliners during an emergency trained in crowd and crises management. Life-saving appliances, lifeboats, life rafts, life jackets, marine evacuation system, immersion suits, and rescue boats all are to use for protection during survival. General alarms PA system. for signal or broadcasting for specific emergency onboard. Signage and lightings help guide passenger. This light will help when visibility is low. Medical first aid team. They'll treat injured passenger or personnel. Fire suppression and safety equipment to contain fire that may lead to worst-case scenario. Muster station or evacuation station, where passenger and crew gather for accounting. Ventilation or smoke control system. Ability to shut off or adjust airflow, vent smoke upward, manage pressurized staircases. Ship management. Advise master, inform stakeholders. Insurance, these help coordinate response, provide additional resources, and support with info, media, supplies. Search and rescue, SAR. Coast Guard, Maritime Rescue Coordination Centers, Naval or Coast Watchers. Assistance from nearby ships or vessels. Ships in vicinity may help with evacuations, medical support, or transfer of passengers. Shore-based emergency services. If the ship is in port area or within range, these services can assist. Full use of personnel and equipment available. To ensure full and effective use of personnel and equipment during crowd and crisis situations aboard a passenger ship, you must integrate training, planning, communication, and coordination across all departments. Below is a structured breakdown showing how to maximize the use of personnel and equipment during emergencies, especially those involving crowd movement, fire, flooding, medical emergencies, or abandoned ship scenarios. This image displays the fundamental organizational hierarchy aboard a vessel, headed by the captain or master. All operations and crisis response ultimately report to this position. The structure is divided into 3 primary departments, each with distinct roles crucial during an emergency. Deck department. Led by the staff captain and chief officer, this department is responsible for navigation, ship stability, and crucial safety and watchkeeping duties. They are directly involved in initial emergency response, crowd control, and the deployment of life-saving appliances. Engine department. Led by the chief engineer and first engineer, this department maintains the ship's propulsion, power, and essential systems. Their role in a crisis is to maintain power, control damage, and ensure the functionality of firefighting and emergency equipment. Hotel department. Led by the hotel director, this department manages passenger services. In a crisis, they are key to passenger communication, welfare, medical assistance via the medical department, and the overall management of the crowd and evacuation procedures. This emergency muster list is a critical crisis management tool that details the organization and assignments of the ship's crew during various emergencies. It ensures effective crowd and crisis management by assigning specific duties. It allocates personnel, by name and rank, to specific actions for incidents like fire or other incident, abandon ship, man overboard, and general emergency. Structuring response teams. It formally organizes the crew into designated teams, in example, control team, first emergency team, engine room support, reserve team, for coordinated action. Directing crowd flow, abandoned ship. It lists the abandoned ship stations and specifies lifeboat/raft assignments, crucial for controlling and directing the movement of passengers and non-essential crew. Crowd control to life-saving appliances, LSA. In short, it is the crew's action plan for safely managing the vessel and all personnel during an emergency. This set of life-saving appliances, LSA, is fundamental to crowd and crisis management by providing the means for immediate survival and evacuation. The LSA assists by evacuation and crowd containment. The lifeboats, top left, top center, and life rafts, top right, are the primary means of mass evacuation. The process of assigning and loading passengers into these devices is the final stage of organized crowd control during an abandonment crisis. Individual safety, life jackets, bottom left, and lifebuoys, bottom center, provide immediate flotation and locatability for individuals who fall into the water or are in distress, preventing panic and managing individual emergencies. Protection. The immersion suit, bottom right, offers thermal protection, extending survival time. This is a key part of crisis planning for cold water regions. In essence, these LSA items are the end goal of all crisis management procedures, providing a safe refuge or survival capability once the vessel is no longer safe. Equipment should be well separated and have safe access where should an emergency occur. Immediately move any emergency equipment from a potentially unsafe area. Age and fitness may limit certain personnel to less arduous yet essential positions. This image illustrates the crisis command structure used during a drill, focusing on the centralized command center for real-time decision-making and coordination. The drill hierarchy demonstrates centralized authority. All actions flow from the command center, ensuring a unified response. Specialized response. Teams are clearly segmented for specific crisis tasks, including engine control, damage control, medical, and fire teams. Prioritized crowd management. The structure includes an evacuation control team with designated zone or section leaders and staff roles, FSD guards, guides, etc., to directly manage the crowd, passengers from their cabins to muster stations, and finally to the lifeboat or raft prep. Teams for evacuation. On-scene command. The on-scene commander acts as the crucial link between the central command and the immediate incident location. Example, managing the fire teams. This setup ensures a rapid, organized, and accountable response essential for effective crowd and crisis management during a realistic drill. Emergency plans and procedures. Paging codes. Code Alpha, Medical Emergency Response Team. Code Sierra, Oil Spill Response Team. Code Oscar, Man Overboard Rescue Team. Code Papa, Bomb and/or Stowaway Search Team. Code Bravo, Fire and Damage Control Team. Emergency plans and procedures. Warning or alarm. Paging codes. Evacuation. Emergency signal. Abandon ship. Captain's order. Personnel. Full utilization strategy. Captain and bridge team. Overall command. Communicate with external agencies. Initiate alarms and announcements. Monitor ship status. Fire, flooding, stability. Central decision-making hub. Must ensure continuous situational awareness. Assign duties based on priority. Use backup officers if captain is occupied or incapacitated. Emergency response team or fire team. Firefighting, search and rescue. Damage control. Equipped with SCBA, firefighting suits and assigned to high-risk zones. Rotate teams for stamina and use body system for safety. Medical team, doctor, nurse, paramedics. First aid, triage, as well as managing medical emergencies. They set up triage zones and use medical volunteers among passengers. They also pre-designate treatment rooms. Muster station leaders or evacuation crew. Guide passengers to muster stations, and they ensure life jackets are worn. Maintain order and use loud hailers, simple languages. They'll provide multilingual support and allocate floaters to assist latecomers. Deck crew. Launching lifeboats or rafts and operating embarkation systems. The ones closing watertight or fire doors and pre-check equipment readiness. They deploy evenly across embarkation zones as well as assign 1 to 2 crew per boat or raft station. Hotel or housekeeping staff. Assist evacuation, help passengers with mobility challenges, reassure and support. They turn into safety assistants and direct crowd in cabins, hallways, as well as use them for psychological support. They also prevent panic, control crowd behavior, and escort aggressive individuals. Hotel or housekeeping staff. Uses non-confrontational control, station at bottlenecks, stairwells, and escort to medical if needed. They calm passengers, assist communication, and help with children. Also used as public figures on board for calm and reassures using known voices, as well as assist in childcare zones. The hotel or housekeeping staff also provide translation and help elderly or disabled. They aid in carrying gear as well as identify early during muster. Also pairs with crew and provide basic training during drills. Equipment, full utilization strategy. Public address, PIA system. This gives instructions and helps reduce panic. Announce muster orders. Use clear, simple language and repeat in multiple languages as well as combine with visual signage. Life jackets and immersion suits. Personal flotation and for hypothermia protection. The crew must help or demonstrate in donning them and train passengers during drills. Lifeboats and rafts, used for abandoned ship. Maintain weekly checks and assign launch crew clearly. Always ensure all gear is stocked, example water, signal, blankets. Escape route lighting and signage. Guide passengers in dark or smoke. Keep paths clear of obstructions at all times and use low locating light or flashing lights. Conduct regular inspections and maintenance. Smoke detectors and fire alarms. Early detection is essential. Must have regular maintenance and testing according to manufacturer's instructions. Crew to respond immediately and must never ignore false alarms. Firefighting equipment, SCBA, hoses, foam. It contains the fire. Train all firefighting crew and keep equipment free from obstructions. Keep fire watch on timely rotate all areas of fire hazards as well as log after each rounds. Portable radios or walkie-talkies, used for crew communication. They have assigned channels and have backups, for example, Lifeline. Please avoid chatter to non-essential info. Evacuation slides and chutes, used for fast evacuation and only train crew to operate these equipment. Always assign marshals to regulate flow and must avoid crowd surge near slides. Distress flares and EPIRB and SART, used to signal for help. Used by bridge or boat officers as well as regular inventory checks must be done, as well as stored securely yet accessible. Control response to emergencies. Lead and direct others in emergencies. Effective leadership during emergencies requires a calm mind and clear priorities. Keep one priority at a time. Avoid mixing orders that will lead to confusion. Keeping your ability to guide others when tensions are getting high. Clear communication is the backbone of any successful emergency response. Focused decision-making. Use simple, direct language to avoid confusion during high-pressure situations. Hear team members' concerns and updates. This encourages trust while providing valuable information for better decision-making. Avoid fatigue decision, it will affect your choices. Here is a short clip on how to stay calm under pressure.
Your favorite athlete closes in for a victorious win. The crowd holds its breath, and at the crucial moment, she misses the shot. That competitor just experienced the phenomenon known as choking, where despite months, even years of practice, a person fails right when it matters most. Choking is common in sports, where performance often occurs under intense pressure and depends on key moments. And yet, performance anxiety also haunts public speakers, contestants in spelling bees, and even world-famous musicians. Most people intuitively blame it on their nerves, but why does being nervous undermine expert performance? There are two sets of theories, which both say that primarily choking under pressure boils down to focus. First, there are the distraction theories. These suggest that performance suffers when the mind is preoccupied with worries, doubts, or fears, instead of focusing its attention on performing the task at hand. When relevant and irrelevant thoughts compete for the same attention, something has to give. The brain can only process so much information at once. Tasks that challenge working memory, the mental scratch pad we use to temporarily store phone numbers and grocery lists, are especially vulnerable to pressure. In a 2004 study, a group of university students were asked to perform math problems, some easy, others more complex and memory-intensive. Half the students completed both problem types with nothing at stake, while the others completed them when calm and under pressure. While everyone did well on the easy problems, those who were stressed performed worse on the more difficult memory-intensive tasks. Explicit monitoring theories make up the second group of explanations for choking under pressure. They're concerned with how pressure can cause people to overanalyze the task at hand. Here, the logic goes that once a skill becomes automatic, thinking about its precise mechanics interferes with your ability to do it. Tasks we do unconsciously seem to be most vulnerable to this kind of choking. A study on competitive golfers compared their performance when instructed to simply focus on putting as accurately as possible versus when they were primed to be acutely aware of the mechanics of their putting stroke. Golfers usually perform this action subconsciously, so those who suddenly tuned in to the precise details of their own moves also became worse at making accurate shots. Choking may not be inevitable for everyone, though. Research suggests that some are more susceptible than others, especially those who are self-conscious, anxious, and afraid of being judged negatively by others. So, how can we avoid choking when it really counts? First, it helps to practice under stressful conditions. In a study on expert dart players, researchers found that those who hadn't practiced under stress performed worse when anxious, compared to those who had become accustomed to pressure. Secondly, many performers extol the virtues of a pre-performance routine, whether it's taking a few deep breaths, repeating a cue word, or doing a rhythmic sequence of movements. Studies on golfing, bowling, and water polo find that short rituals can lead to more consistent and accurate performance under pressure. And thirdly, researchers have shown that having an external focus on the ultimate goal works better than an internal focus, where someone is tuned into the mechanics of what they're doing. A study of experienced golfers revealed that those who hit chip shots while focused on the flight of the ball performed significantly better than those who focused on the motion of their arms. So perhaps we can modify that age-old saying, practice under pressure, with focus, and with that glorious end goal in sight, makes perfect. For a nail-biting example of persevering under pressure, we highly recommend The Boys in the Boat. It tells the gripping true story of 9 American rowers and their quest for gold at the 1936 Olympics in Nazi Germany. You can download an audio version of this book for free at audible.com/TEDEd. Every free trial started through this link helps support TEDEd's nonprofit mission.
Motivation of passengers and other personnel. Before boarding the ship, or as soon as possible after boarding the ship, each passenger should be given a visually attractive card or folder explaining the emergency and safety-related procedures aboard the ship using diagrams and pictures. Crew on passenger upon boarding and completing their familiarization will be given with safety ID indicating at the back their duties and responsibilities to any emergency. 1. Reporting fires and other apparently dangerous situations to a crew member, no matter how small or insignificant they may seem. 2. The meaning of the IMO A760-18 symbols. 3. Operation and use of low-location lighting systems. 4. How assistance will be provided to disabled persons in an emergency. 5. General explanation of how an abandonment would be carried out, including moving to assembly stations, then embarkation stations, and onto survival craft. 6. Following the directions to the assembly stations on signs and given by the crew. Do not follow crew members moving in other directions. Crew members may not necessarily be moving to assembly stations. 7. Operating the life jacket lights. 8. Familiarization with the lifeboats and life rafts, and especially the life raft launching and boarding procedure, as well as what to do in a lifeboat or life raft. 9. Do not leave baggage where it obstructs passageways or is otherwise unattended. 10. Access to vehicle decks is prohibited during the voyage. If you must have access to your vehicle during the voyage, identify appropriate crew member. 11. All vehicle gas cylinders should be turned off. 12. Smoking is prohibited on vehicle decks. And 13. Please follow the instructions of your crew members. They are highly trained and are there to assist you. Stresses. Reduced ability to solve complex problems due to a narrowing of attention. Consideration of fewer alternative solutions. Stresses. The strain of responsibility leads to over-delegating, being impossible to contact, general loss of control, panic and fear, uncertainty and confusion, loss of control as well as crowd anxiety. Effects of stresses. 1. Human safety risks, injuries and fatalities, trampling, falling, or collisions in overcrowded areas during panic or evacuation, lack of access to life-saving equipment or exits due to congestion, increased chance of secondary injuries, e.g. from smoke inhalation, fire, or structural damage. Effects of stresses. 1. Human safety risks, delayed evacuation. Crowds can slow down access to muster stations or lifeboats. Blocked passageways or stampedes can cause chaos and prevent orderly evacuation. Effects of stresses. 2. Psychological and emotional impact, panic and mass hysteria. In a crisis, group panic can spread rapidly, amplifying confusion and irrational behavior. Trauma and PTSD. Both passengers and crew may suffer long-term psychological effects, especially if they witness fatalities or serious injuries. Effects of stresses. 3. Operational disruption, system overload or failure. Communication systems may become overloaded due to panic calls or misuse. Elevators, alarms, or lighting systems may fail due to power issues or misuse. Crew effectiveness reduces. Stress and fear among crew members can impact decision-making and leadership effectiveness. Fatigue during prolonged emergencies limits performance. Effects of stresses. 4. Infrastructure and equipment damage, damage to ship interiors. Crowds pushing through confined spaces can cause damage to doors, furniture, safety equipment, and life-saving appliances. Lifeboats, rafts. Safety systems compromise. Overuse or misuse of fire extinguishers, emergency exits, or communication panels. Effects of stresses. 5. Failure to comply with safety protocols. Passengers may ignore or misunderstand evacuation instructions. Overcrowding can prevent proper use of muster stations, lifeboats, overcapacity, and escape routes. Effects of stresses. 6. Reputational and financial consequences. Loss of passenger trust. Incidents mishandled due to crowd chaos can lead to loss of confidence in the cruise line or ferry operator. Legal and financial liability. Lawsuits from injured or traumatized passengers. Penalties from maritime safety regulators, e.g. IMO, flag state authorities. Effects of stresses. 7. Escalation of the crisis. Crowd behavior can turn a manageable situation into a disaster. For example, a fire in one section can turn into a mass casualty event if people panic and block exits. Poor crowd control can cause lifeboats to be launched improperly or left behind. 4 types of stresses. Acute stress. Acute stress is a very short-term type of stress that can be upsetting or traumatic. This is the type of stress that is out of the ordinary, such as a car accident, assault, or natural disaster. Chronic stress. Chronic stress is what we most often encounter in day-to-day life and seems never-ending and inescapable, like the stress of a bad marriage or an extremely taxing job. 4 types of stresses. Episodic acute stress. Episodic acute stress is acute stress that seems to run rampant and be a way of life, creating a life of ongoing distress. Episodic stress can be recurring illness, ongoing domestic violence, child abuse, and living through conflict and war. Eustress. Eustress, on the other hand, is fun and exciting. It's known as a positive type of stress that can keep you energized. It's associated with surges of adrenaline, such as when you are skiing or racing to meet a deadline. 3 phases of emergency. Phase 1, the announcement. Phase 2, the evacuation. And Phase 3, which is abandoned ship. Phase 1, the announcement. Announcement of the nature of the emergency by code and its location by the public address system of the vessel 3 times. Action to the call of emergency by the concerned parties only. Phase 2, the evacuation. Sounding of the general emergency alarm which is 7 short plus 1 long blast. Passengers to proceed to their muster station. Ship's crew to perform their emergency duties, such as maintain order in the muster station, conduct mustering to passengers and crew, as well as render assistance to passengers. Phase 3, the abandoned ship. Verbal announcement by the captain. All passengers and crew proceed to embarkation stations, conduct final head count of the passengers, then stand by and wait for final announcement. Crowd and crisis management for passenger ships, for domestic ships. End of the slides. Thank you.